Oh yeah. Here, shimmy, man. There it is. We're here. We're ready. Ken Neumann. Inside the mediation room. Okay, Karen. Here.
Well, Michael, I just thought right before we got on,
Yeah.
I said in my head,
Yeah.
live from New York, it's
Ken Neumann. Yeah. Yep. The boy from the Bronx, the legend, the institution, the living institution himself, Ken Neumann, with us today. Karen, how excited have I been about this show? How excited have you been?
I've been very excited about it since you asked me to come on, and you've been excited, and I'm glad we spoke last night. This whole thing is very exciting, and doing anything with APFM is particularly exciting. And perhaps at our next conference, we can all talk about how we formed, the we being a lot of us, APFM, how we started our own organization well after the merger of AFM and ACR, and we needed to form our own organization, and it took a while, but we did it. And perhaps at our next conference, we can have several of the people who were part of that tell about it, tell about our journey and why we're all here, and really, and what has to happen going forward. I think it's time for us to make our move going forward.
What's our move going forward, Ken? I mean, that's not the first question. This is the pre-show, because there's a very important first question Karen has for you.
I think that we kind of reached the plateau in a way, in mediation. The field, some of us as individuals, but the field, and I think we kind of there's a lot of excitement at the beginning in the whole process, and we reached the plateau. Then we kind of had to deal with the collaborative process, which many of us practice as well. Things got a bit diluted, perhaps, and confused to the public. I think we need to do much more public awareness. I think we've all learned to function within our own little bubbles. And people who've developed successful practices don't really need to do anymore, but we're not growing the field enough. I feel we need to make a commitment to grow the field, and we need to have a task force on it. And I'd like to be part of that task force of how we really grow the field. And we kind of just, we got complacent, if you will. And then COVID came, and COVID affected things for all of us forever, and doing things on Zoom. And many of us are out there, and many of us have successful practices, but we need to do more. And I like to be part of that. And I'd like to invite everyone who's watching this today or watching it subsequently to contact APFM and become part of the new movement. I'm announcing it officially today, the new movement that we're going to have.
We support APFM, and I was president of that great organization for 3 years. Important to note, Ken, this show is not actually affiliated with APFM, although hi APFM, and if you'd like to share this show with the APFM audience so that everyone can hear Ken's call to action, please do share. This great show is affiliated with mediate.com. In fact, the great Jim Malamed himself is watching as we speak.
Jim Malamed, I can remember the first time, Jim, that I met you, and we go back a long time. In fact, don't move. I have to show you what I always have and what I wear anytime I go outside. I have.
Oh, I love the props.
Jim, do you recognize this?
Oh, right.
I guess I should wear my mediate.com. Jim, do you recognize Colin? Colin knows about this for sure, and Colin knows what this hat's all about.
Jim said vintage, Ken. He said vintage. So
Vintage, Jim. Yes, Jim. I have all of the stuff you ever gave me. I must say, I cherish it all, Jim. But by the way, I do wear this hat when I go out, and people will stop you on the street and say, "What's that? What's mediate?" You know. And
Okay.
remember, the next time you're on an airplane and you're sitting next to someone,
Yeah.
and they say, "What do you do?" You don't say, "I'm a lawyer." You say, "I'm a mediator." You don't say, "I'm a family therapist." You say, "I'm a mediator." We really need to do this.
That's how we grow the profession, Ken.
That's how we grow the
who we
profession.
are. Oh, I'm an attorney who also mediates. I'm a therapist. I mediate too. No, I'm a mediator.
Yeah, no.
I'm a mediator. Boom, there it is. Say it loud, say it proud, say it always. Say who
Say
you
it
are.
loud, say it proud. Got it.
By the way,
So, Ken, I just want to say I love your hat. I want to ask Jim and Colin how I get one. I want to wear that on. I want to wear that every day.
I don't know if Jim still has any. It's on its
Jim,
way.
actually, I can tell you this. Jim gave away his last hat, and I remember the moment because I have the hat, and I had commented that I really wanted to support mediate.com. And so what did Jim do? He gave me his hat. It was sweat stained. It had to have been at least a decade old. I did not clean the hat, and I have worn the hat. I have worn the hat many a time. And so, okay, Colin is saying fresh hats, good.
Fresh hats. Oh, I
Good.
love fresh hats. So
yeah,
you know who you are.
Yeah.
We know who you are and we love you. We want to make sure that we give you the proper red carpet treatment right now and allow the audience to know who you are, because your messages are very inspiring. And in order to be more inspired, once they hear who you are, they'll be inspired. Michael, take it away.
Oh my goodness, I have to introduce Ken. I didn't even introduce you, Ken, because you don't need an introduction. You're Ken Neumann.
That's what
Neumann.
when they don't give you an introduction, they simply say you don't need an introduction because they didn't give you one. That's
This is why. Thank you, Karen, for always making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing inside the mediation room and in life.
Thank you, Jim.
Ken Neumann, since 1983, has trained more than 3,000 mediators. Find me a trainer who's trained more mediators in the world than Ken Neumann at the Center for Mediation Training in New York City. He's also guided thousands and thousands of couples through divorce mediation over the past 40 years using his signature model. He is a founding member of many organizations, including APFM and the New York Mediation Organization. He was most recently honored by APFM with the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I can't think of anyone more deserving than a Lifetime Achievement Award than you, Ken Neumann. You're here. We've been schmoozing now. Amazingly, no one has left. It's amazing.
Not yet.
No one has left yet. And so we're going to get into some meat. Do we need to ask this very, very quick question, though? Because we can't get away with this episode without asking the question we ask to all people. Very quick question, very quick answer. Karen, what are we asking Ken very quickly?
Ken, do you know what question I'm about to ask you?
No.
Great.
Okay. We ask everyone. We need to ask you.
Yeah.
What is your favorite childhood cereal? Go.
Do you mean cereal that I would eat or cereal on TV?
Oh, I mean, you can go rogue. It could be anything.
My favorite childhood cereal. Well, I was first thought was a TV show, Captain Video and his Video Rangers. If you mean breakfast cereal, Sugar Crisp.
Oh,
Crisp. Do they still make Sugar Crisp?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And here's the answer. Captain Video and his
okay.
Colin, thank you. Captain Video
question,
and his Video Rangers.
Yeah.
Ken, do they have a low sugar version these days?
They
Or would
do,
that
I'm sure.
defeat the
Yeah.
purpose?
Well,
It's called-
Sugar Crisp, you're not allowed to eat those cereals anymore, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, good. I'm so glad that we've accomplished this, Karen. I mean, is that sufficient to pass your cereal test, Karen?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we could find many cereals along the aisles that match Sugar Crisp.
Let's
but
talk-
not Captain Video and his Video Rangers.
No. Let's talk about mediator problems. This is how we want to get started. We want to talk about problems because there are mediators who are facing challenges out there. There's a lot of new mediators who, like you kind of described the profession, and many mediators have plateaued. There are mediators facing challenges, right? They're facing all kinds of challenges. I want to understand what you believe, knowing the mediators who you're in training with every day. What do you see as the most significant challenges that are facing mediators today? Maybe we can talk about a challenge or two. And what is your thinking? What is your advice on how to overcome those challenges? Let's start with the number one challenge in your mind.
I think it's very clear. The number one challenge is, how do you get clients? That's the number one challenge, because there's a lot of good information out there. Many of us offer trainings. Woody offers trainings. We offer trainings. Bill Eddy offers trainings. There's a lot of good training out there. I think that mediators, and I know your subsequent questions are going to be focused on this. How do you get clients? How do you get what you got to keep the clients you get, of course. And clients, I remember, I did my first mediation case in February 1983. I remember the case. You always remember your first case, and it was 1983. The couple comes in and says, that's my first mediation. I haven't done a mediation yet. We had been trained, but we didn't do any mediations yet. And they say, in this first case, they said, we need to have this done by May 15th. I said, oh, really? How come? The guy said, I'm getting married that day to someone else. I said, oh, really? That's very interesting. Let's see what we can do. By the way, we did not get it done by May 15th, but nevertheless, that was my first case. But what I remember, and that case was referred by, that guy was a psychotherapy patient of Howard Yum, who was the person who I first formed the Center for Mediation and Training with, and then Steve Abel soon joined us. And I remember the first time that I got a referral, a mediation referral from a former client. There was something very significant about that. I think of it now, I even remember who it was, because you get referrals from your friends, from your colleagues, from people who know you, professionals who know you, but you have to be doing it for a while to get a referral actually from someone who you mediated. And to me, that was the best referral from a previous client. And now a lot of my referrals come from previous clients, and from other professionals, of course, as well. From the website, things like that. We also started doing this before there was an internet. Imagine that. Imagine that, Jim, right? We started doing this before there was an internet. So we had to look at other forms of advertising. We had to look at other forms of promotion. The hats, of course, but the internet has changed everything. I think also the internet has made people get lazy. People think, oh, I'll just go hire someone, do a website, and then the cases will just start coming in. That's a real mistake. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I remember advice that my mother gave me indirectly growing up. My mother said, and she said it in different contexts, and I understood what she meant. I will have to translate this expression as well. She said, they have to see you put them. You want to explain that, Michael, to the studio audience?
Well, I would say, I would explain it in an example form. Karen has a beautiful punum. It's one of the reasons I married her. Look at that punum. You know, Ken, what an adorable punum you have. I just want to squeeze that cheek on your punum. And people now know what a punum is.
Yeah, my mother said that, and I realized that it meant something. She said, "They have to see you put them." And I still, at this point, if someone asks me, "Do I want to speak at a conference, or do I want to speak at a meeting, or any such thing? Do I want to speak here on this?" The answer is always yes. The answer is, I still speak at conferences. First of all, I enjoy doing that kind of work. Speaking at a con, it's not work. I enjoy doing that kind of task. Speaking at a conference, speaking at a parents association meeting. Now, again, things have changed, of course, with COVID, but you really can't just say I'll invest $50,000 in a good website. I don't have to do anything else. That really isn't what it's about. You have to not be lazy. You have to get out there. You have to go meet with people. Jack Heister, a New York State mediator from Rochester, one of the people who started mediation, certainly in New York State, and he would go, he would just do one talk a week. You know, he'd go out to any group that would have him. He would speak. Also, he would take people out to lunch. When I started out doing this, I would know new therapists. I'd go to a meeting, and then I would meet people for lunch. People used to actually meet people for lunch in the old days. You know what I mean? Also a fine painter, Max. That's correct. Jack Heister, I have some of his work here, in fact. And yeah, people,
Yeah.
you can't be lazy about it. I think that people think they can just invest a lot of money, get a promotional person, and that's all they have to do.
Yeah. Some of our best in terms of showing your punum, some of our best referral sources have been therapists in the area, right? Getting our punum
Absolutely.
out to the therapists and shaking hands and going to conferences and meeting people and educating therapists who you would assume understand what mediation is and how it works and how it can benefit clients, but actually our experiences, most don't know about mediation. So goodness, getting in front.
Even now, after all these years, they still don't know about it, Michael. You're absolutely right. The other thing that is very interesting, and I'll say it, a lot of therapists would be much more comfortable referring a client to a mediator who's not a therapist. Can you understand that? For any number of reasons. Karen, you get that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, in fact, and very much, I wouldn't make the same statement about lawyers referring because it's not the case. But I think a lot of therapists would rather refer someone, would feel more comfortable for any number of reasons. So I think the non-therapist mediators need to be aware of that. I think what's also interesting to note from an historical point of view, when mediation started, and I've been doing this since February 1983, and what we first saw early on were mediation teams. It was a co-mediation model. It was a woman and a man, and also a therapist and a lawyer. So you'd have, now there are very few mediation teams operating. The reason for it initially was lawyers didn't feel comfortable dealing with emotional type things. Therapists didn't feel comfortable dealing with, technical kinds of things, legal or financial things. And so you'd have a co-mediation team. There are very few co-mediation teams existing now. The only ones that really exist in any large number are married couples, because when you can't charge double the fee typically when you have two mediators. But if you're splitting the fee with someone you're married to, you're not losing anything supposedly. And also gives you time to spend time together. Otherwise, you wouldn't see each other all week long. So in the evening, so it's useful in that regard as well. But I think after a while, I saw it develop that people also weren't comfortable. But then as we started doing more and more mediation, people became comfortable mediating without the lawyer or therapist in the room. Because really, as a mediator, we have to know everything. And I take that point of view. And of course, you can say, well, don't be ridiculous. How can you know everything? Well, you can't know everything. If you don't know everything, you at least have to know who to call. You at least have to know who to call to get that information. You can't know everything. And it's always impressive, by the way. Married mediator videos are here. Yeah, the successful mediation teams are people who are married. That's correct. In fact. And thanks for that, Jim. I'm going to look at that. If that you can send that to me, I don't, or we can pull it off now. So we saw a lot of co-mediation teams, but mediators, I always take the point of view, mediators have to know everything, or at least to know who to call. It's also very impressive. I used to make calls, I still would, if I want to know something about, I'm with a couple and they say, well, what is the cutoff for this tax thing? I say, hold on, let me find out. And I'll call someone, I'll call Lee Slater, give him a free plug here. And or I get calls sometimes. Someone's in a mediation session. This isn't an invitation to everyone, by the way. They call me and say, Ken, what's the best way to, people, it's okay to do that. Mediators, the thing about mediators that's most impressive, and I've been part of other professional organizations, family therapists, psychologists, and the like, mediators are really the best group possible. There's no group like mediators. Really, you just go to a mediation conference and you'll know what I mean. But people who are going to be watching this subsequently, and we're going to make this available to the people in our trainings. You go to a mediation conference, mediators don't feel competitive with other mediators because we're all building the same dream together. So mediators are always willing to help another mediator. And for new people coming into the field, you'll see that mediators are really always open to doing that, very much open to doing that. No one ever acts otherwise. And I think, the people who are on this call, I don't know who else, Jim knows what I mean, totally. And look, coming to a mediation conference, and I look forward to live conferences, the New York State Council on Divorce Mediation's 40th annual conference is going to be live in Saratoga Springs the last weekend in April. And we're also excited to be live with each other. We're also excited about being together. And I don't know what the plans are. I certainly will attend any live conference. It's such a great thing, and we all have such a great time together. The field is like that. But there's a large body of knowledge, and I think that we have to acquire that body of knowledge very seriously, and you don't get that knowledge by going to law school. You don't get that knowledge by going to therapist school. You got to.
Question for you.
Sure.
About this. What you're saying is really important, that mediators do need to know everything. If not, they need to know who to call. You having a background in family therapy, that's really important. What would you say, since mediators do need to know about emotion in the room and how to navigate that and having a general understanding about the emotions happening, what would you say to non-therapist mediators? What are the skills, the knowledge that they may need to have in the room if they do not have that background like you have?
Well, I think, we offer trainings. I mean, a lot of us offer really good trainings in such matters, and you need to go to more training. Some people, there are courses you can take at universities. There are any number of ways. I think it's more training. You can go through your own divorce. No, that was a joke, but with a good mediator, that probably would be great training for people who haven't tried that yet. But actually, it's very interesting when we ask people in our trainings, how they got to the training. Someone said, "Well, someone said I went through mediated divorce myself, and my mediator suggested that I go for mediation training." They would say to someone. Surprisingly, how many people get that kind of referral. I think you got to go to as many things as possible as early on in your career as you can. there's any kind of talk that you can get to, and now with Zoom, of course, online, you can get to anything, any place. You really need to take in information. There's so much information that we have to learn as mediators. We have to learn everything. We have to learn everything about everything, as I said. But you need to know the tax code. By the way, this isn't a plug for H&R Block, but their course to become an H&R Block tax preparer. I've had several people have taken that class. They're not going to get a job for H&R Block, but what they learn about basic taxes, I've seen the actual course agenda, is invaluable. Take that class. I don't know. It's a very low fee because they think you're doing it to be, or maybe you want to become an H&R Block tax preparer, but that's a good place. That's a good way to learn that. There are classes, we'll talk later about our practicum. You need to do it. You need to get out there. You can't sit on your whatever you're going to be sitting on and learn anything. You can't just take 1 40-hour class and that's it. And now you can, I'm a lawyer for 20 years. That's all I need to do. We're always learning as mediators. If I don't learn something, if I go through a week and I haven't learned something new, I start to wonder, what's going on? Why didn't I learn something new? Why didn't I learn a new technique or a new fact? I'm quite serious about that.
Yeah, consistent professional growth, which really is also personal growth. Mediators can and should be, for example, reading something written on mediation, whether it's at mediate.com or whether it's in any number of books that you can purchase on Amazon, right? If you're in it, if you're in the field, you're investing yourself, you're going to the trainings, you're going to the webinars, you're reading the material, you're committed to growing yourself, then gosh, you're putting yourself out there, and you can only go up from there. But maybe we can get a little more specific, Ken, because I want to understand your model. Mediators need to know everything. Let's get a little more specific. I want to understand, if you had to choose, this is a tough one because there are so many gems in your model. But if you had to choose 3 essential concepts, let's just start with one. Essential concepts from your model that you believe are absolutely necessary for a mediator to know in order to be successful, in order to be effective inside the mediation room. What's the first concept that you teach that's absolutely necessary for all mediators?
You say, I'm not sure what the question is exactly, because I thought the original question was, what are the 3 most essential concepts of your mediation model? So okay. So when I knew the question from beforehand, I think what you have to learn to establish in the mediation relationship with your clients is trust. People have to really trust you. People have to trust you, and that comes from having a lot of knowledge. The most important thing is you don't have to trust your dentist nearly as much, and nothing about dentists. I had a dental appointment early this morning, so I'm a little focused on dental appointments, but I do trust my dentist. That's the point. But trust is the most important thing. You have to set a relationship and an atmosphere where your clients trust you. Now that's complex because there are many things that go into the trust thing. How you set your fees, how transparent you are, how you build a relationship with 2 people, who are presumably, according to some people, in an adversarial model of a relationship. They're getting divorced. Now our goal is to help them realize, when they have children in particular, but even without children, that they're really not in an adversarial model. We're always trying to create a win-win solution, but you have to build trust with your clients. They have to trust you. And that's from the first phone call. That's from the first thing you send out. That's from whatever else your first contact is. So it's trust. And then
Well, let's hold one second. I want to go a little deeper on that because we couldn't agree more. Karen, I couldn't agree more. It's $1 million question. How do you build that trust? That first phone call you're talking about, right? That first phone call or that first consultation, that first contact, right? What's going through a mediator's mind? What is a mediator doing? Who is that mediator being? What is happening in that first moment and those moments, subsequent moments, that are going to help the mediator build trust with the potential client?
It's a very good question, of course, as you put it. I think trust just comes through. You know, trust is transparency, openness, friendliness, answering questions, not being too anxious to close the deal, so to speak. It comes through. How do you learn? It's the $1 million question, as you put it, Michael. I think you really have to be aware how people see you, and how you really need to be. You know, have you ever talked to someone and then after you talk to them, no, I'm not going to go to them, whatever it might be, whatever it is, because there was something that didn't come across. You can't fake. How about this? Write this down, because you can't fake being genuine.
Boom.
Well, there you go, Ken.
Let's write that. We're putting that on our website now for anyone who's listening on. Can't fake being genuine.
What you're saying is, yes, you're doing things, you're being open, you said you're being transparent, you're being friendly. Yes, those are all things you're doing. What you're also saying is sometimes when you go to a professional, you leave and you feel like, I don't want to go back there, right? And
That's right.
It's also a way of being. You need to be yourself. Rather than
Aaron, I like that. You need to be yourself. You can't fake being genuine. You can't fake being genuine. And that takes work. And if you're not genuine, you need to work on why you're not genuine, why people don't see you as being genuine.
Yeah.
You
If you're not genuine, Ken, it might be because you don't trust yourself. And so maybe are we talking about, and we're really going deep here. This is what we do inside the mediation room, Ken. Really,
I see.
are we talking about mediators trusting themselves, knowing themselves, trusting themselves? Because if we trust ourselves and we present with that genuine confidence, we trust ourselves enough to be ourselves, to level with people, to connect with people. If we trust ourselves, they trust us. And if they trust us more, don't they trust themselves more?
How about this one? And I just popped up on my screen. When I say my screen, I don't mean the one I'm looking at right now. I mean the screen in my brain that keeps on popping up things all the time. To thine own self be true.
Yeah. Ken, would you also say that you need to trust yourself and you need to believe in yourself and like yourself? Or you'll have to make up who you are in front of the clients and they sense that.
Well, you know, that's right, Karen. We may not want to make being a therapist a criteria or a requirement to be a mediator, but maybe we should make being in psychotherapy a requirement to be a mediator.
Wow.
Let's write that down somewhere, and you can say that I'll take full credit for it. I said it first, okay?
Ken, I'll start the petition.
That down. I think that's a requirement when we start certifying mediators. You need to have.
No, really. I've never said, I don't believe. Look, some people on this call have heard me speak for a long time. Have I ever said that before, Max? Have you ever heard me say that? Max would know. And Annalisa, if she's on the call now, Annalisa, have I ever said that before? These are people who know me for a long time. Would be able to add to one, how much we know. Yeah, look, I don't think it's a bad start. I mean, I can imagine that people can be good mediators without having been in personal therapy themselves or couples therapy, but we're not going to require that either.
You hear what you're saying, Ken. It goes back to what you were saying earlier about personal development. When you're learning and you care about yourself and you're growing, you're learning each week, you develop that self-confidence, you share that self-confidence with your clients. So you care about
That's
it,
right.
and
And
you're
Karen,
developing yourself both personally and professionally.
and Bob has also noted in the chat, by the way, we invite you to post your questions and comments in the chat. Bob has also said, no one, he quotes, no one cares about how much we know until they know how much we care about them. So yeah, we have to care for ourselves. It always starts from the inside, right? From the inside, we care about ourselves. We have self-confidence. We believe in ourselves. We trust ourselves. And then we are who we are with our client, and we care about them, genuinely care about them, because they don't care about us unless we care about
Well,
them. Yeah,
Michael, you're right. You're right. We really care about our clients, and when you genuinely care about someone, it comes across.
yeah,
When you genuinely care, you can't fake caring about someone. You can't. I don't believe you can. You can't fake caring about someone. And I think if you have trouble caring about someone, you're going to have a lot of trouble developing as a mediator.
yeah,
You're going to have to work on that.
yeah.
You're going to have to work on how, why can't you care about other people? I mean, this is another topic perhaps, but another show. But in fact, that's something that you're going to have to. That's something that you're going to have to really work on. You can let it go. So, you're going to have to really work on something like that. Clients can tell right away. Clients can tell right away how genuine you are and you care about them. And you pick it up right away when you go to speak to someone. And you see, and that skill, that trait, it's more than a skill, it's a trait. You pick up with various professionals, and it may matter less with some professionals than with others. I think for a mediator, when you're also working with two people, as I said before, who really, feel in opposition to each other often, not always, it's really very difficult to let both people know that you care about their well-being, even if it appears that they're at odds with each other. This is particularly essential. I do a lot of work now as a parenting coordinator, and these people are most often already divorced. They've been told they need a parenting coordinator because they're doing so poorly vis-a-vis their work with their children. And, how do you let both people know you care about them in what could be seen as a situation that doesn't forced to that? It's easier, I think, to be a lawyer representing one person. It's easier being a lawyer representing one person because I'm on your side. I may not think everything you say is great or I even personally like it, but I'm going to try to get it for you because I'm your advocate. That's easy. I'm not saying it's really easy to do it well, but it's an easy concept. It's an easy concept. And some of us who are lawyers really prefer not being lawyers like that. Some of us who are lawyers still want to do that kind of work. There is something gratifying in doing that kind of work, I have to imagine. But being a mediator, it's different. It's really
Overcomplicating it though, Ken? Are we overcomplicating it? Isn't it easy to say to two people, I care about both of you, and I understand that you both have your own truth and you both have your own history and you have your own perspective and you're both entitled to that truth, and actually you can hold your truth throughout this process and still reach agreements on every issue, your best possible agreements, while you're true to yourself. Can't we say that just very directly, very honestly?
good. I like how you said that, Michael. I think the answer is yes, we can say that. We can say it. And one person in that room may say, I want someone who's just going to do what's good for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
say, this guy, no, I don't want this guy. I want someone who's going to really get me the best deal, whatever that means. get the most money or pay the least kind of thing. So, you know, we can say that. And I think there are people who that will resonate with, but I think the trick there, Michael, is how do you say that and not lose anyone by saying it? Now you could say, I don't care if I lose them. Who would want them anyway? But in fact, if that's the way they are, but really, the trick is how you communicate them. I'm here to, we often say, and we teach this in our class, I'm here to help you to work well together, help you do what's best for your children, protect you from the legal system, protect you from anyone else you need protection from, but really help you come up with an agreement that's going to work best for your whole family. That's what we're selling, actually.
We're selling what, Ken? Very specifically. What are we selling?
We're selling a total win-win situation, as we call it.
Mhm.
We're selling a win-win. Now, there are some people who don't want to participate in a win-win situation. They want to get a win. They want to get the other person. They're so hurt. We're seeing people that should be recalled and remembered at what's, for most of them, the most difficult situation they've been in their lives up till this point. The breakup and loss of their marriage. When they had the fantasy, when you marry someone, the fantasy is my life's going to be okay now. May not have been perfect before, but now everything's going to be okay because I'm married to this person. And then that person one day wakes up and says, I don't want to be married to you anymore. Well, that's devastating for some people. That's totally devastating.
I wonder if the win-win, I wonder if the win-win is actually holding the profession back. This is how this conversation started. The profession is plateaued. Instead of talking to both people and saying win-win, and you're really kind of illuminating the fact that we're losing people there. I wonder how many we're losing. What if we just spoke to individuals and said, hey, we're going to work on getting you the best possible agreement. Actually, both of you the best possible agreement. But in our messaging, in our message as a profession, as individual professionals, it's really more about self-interest. Should we be talking to individuals more and less about the win-win? The turning
Michael, I think this is a very important point, and I'd like to, in another conversation with you, when we have additional time, explore this a bit more, because I think what you're saying is true. I think that there's a real truth to what you're saying. We may be plateauing because of this in part, and we need to get to that market in a more substantial way. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, and I want to give it more thought and perhaps another conversation about it, because there are people who that's not going to attract. In fact, yeah.
So Ken, what is your personal mediation style as it pertains to getting your clients on the same path again towards agreement? How would you define your personal mediation style, having your background in therapy and all the knowledge you have now?
How would I define it? I understand the question. I'm not sure how to focus it, Karen. Give me tell me what you would like me to respond to in it. My personal mediation style. You're seeing it right now. Listen, there are people on this call, and people who are seeing this who know me from different places. This is really who I am. It's just like this. I mean, this is my personal mediation style. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes I say things that offend people. Max knows that, and you know, he's seen it. I'll say things that offend people, and this is my personal mediation style. Whatever do you mean? Yeah, this is my personal mediation style. This is it. This is who I am. This is my style. Anyplace else as well, and I think, you know, when we play lawyer or play therapist, we're playing a role to some extent. You go, what do you learn from 3 years of therapist school or 3 years of law school? You're being taught to play a certain role, depending on you're being taught how to have a certain posture, a certain way of presenting yourself, a certain demeanor. And I think really, when I'm thinking of how we teach mediators, I'm thinking we're teaching mediators just to be yourself.
So
It-
what you're saying, Ken, is the definition of authenticity is what you're suggesting, what you say, what you think, what you feel is how you act.
That's exactly right, Karen. Yes, I think that's true. Yeah.
And you
really,
can be aligned, but also strategic. You can be aware of what you're saying and what you're doing. And you can be doing the things that you're doing with intention. There's a reason behind what you're doing. Yours, would you say, and we have Jim Malabat on the line, who was an originator of strategic mediation. Would you classify yourself as a strategic mediator, Ken?
depending how we define it, probably, yes.
Yeah. Do you have another concept? I know we talked about trust, and trust, it's like for real estate agents, it's location, location, location. For mediators, the number one concept you've given us is trust, trust, trust. But before we go today, I want to give you an opportunity, Ken, for a second concept that you teach that's part of your model that you think is absolutely essential for mediators to know and understand to be successful.
The other one was, as I said before, was knowledge. And the third one is hard work. It's trust, knowledge, and hard work. We have to work really hard for our clients, and it's hard work. Like, let me find out. I'll find out about that tax question you raised in the last session, or you raised in this session. And sometimes, hard work takes hard work is hard work. And sometimes I let a client down because I just didn't have the time to do it. And I have to apologize. Because sometimes you can't do it. And sometimes you might promise something that you realize you couldn't do. But I think it's hard work. It's trust, developing that sense of trust, being genuine, developing trust. Your clients have to trust you. They have to trust you really implicitly and explicitly. Knowledge, they have to know that you're the person who either knows something or knows who to call to get it. And hard work, that you're willing to put in the hard work on something.
Yeah.
Those are the three, legs of the stool, if you will. So,
And it all comes back down to trust, your first one. Because when you have that knowledge, they trust you. And when you work hard for them, they trust you.
it's trust. That's correct.
And they stay with you, and then they reach better agreements. And that's why
And
you've
also,
been successful.
Michael, show your punum.
Show your point.
Face. I love what your mom said, and really, she's saying it simply.
She said they have to see you put them.
They have to see your punum. What I imagine also means is they need to, what you're saying, get to know you, to trust you. And how do they know behind a website who you are as Ken Neumann until they meet you and they see?
Yeah, they don't meet you on the website. Jim just flashed up on the screen. Commitment is also a factor. The commitment, I think, is a big factor. And I think that's part of trust, knowledge. That's part of trust, knowledge, and hard work. The commitment. My commitment as a mediator is to learn new things and keep up to date with things. I have a commitment to do that. The hard work, I have a commitment to do the hard work, whatever that means. It's also being available, but that's part of hard. That's part of the whole thing. You really have to be available. You can't keep bankers' hours, whatever that means. You have to be available. Some of the work that I do, particularly when people have really crises and they have to reach you, and it's not between 9 and 5, 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. That is. No, it's no, you have to be. There is a certain amount of availability. I actually, and my family knows that I have to be available. That's this. If you do this kind of work, you have to be available.
No question, Ken. One of the most committed mediators, I think, in history. I have been with you on meetings where you have taken calls from clients and resolved or reduced conflict, or at least moved things in the right direction in the middle of a meeting on something completely different. And so talk about availability and commitment. I don't think there's anyone who can talk about
Michael, I don't remember.
better
Was
than
that?
you.
I
What was
wasn't aware of that. I don't mean when you I don't recall doing that. But if you say you saw me do it, then you saw me do it. Yeah.
Oh, I saw you do it, Ken, and I'll never forget it. I don't forget any of my interactions with you. And I'll certainly not forget these next 10 interactions, because we are drawing close to Inside the Mediation Room today. And we end our show with all of our esteemed guests in the same way. We end with the 10 questions that James Lipton made famous on Inside the Actors Studio, originally asked by talk show host Bernard Prevost, the French talk show host back in the day. And so we're going to ask you these 10 questions. We did not send you these questions in advance. Whatever happens will happen. There are no censors standing by. Who knows? But we're going to start with question number 1. Ken Neumann, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. Oh, my favorite. Gosh, that is so tough. My favorite. What actually occurred to me, I thought was yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Word.
We promote that with our 4 and 6-year-old girls.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. What is your least favorite word?
Well, it's too hard of a pull. My least favorite word, I don't think I can say on the screen.
What does it
All
rhyme
right.
with?
My least favorite word, I don't know, vomit.
Oh, that's mine too.
Good one. All right.
Vomit.
Question number 3. These answers will live in infamy, by the way.
Well, I was afraid of that, Michael, but
They
I'll
will.
let it.
We're going to publish them right there on the homepage of mediate.com. They're going to get a marquee.
Maybe we'll put them on our website as well.
Yeah. Question number 3. What turns you on?
What turns me on? Well, there are a lot of ways to answer that question. What turns me on? Well, in this context, a challenging situation.
Yeah. Wow. What turns you off?
People who can't be influenced no matter what I do.
What noise or sound do you love?
I'm doing this free association. The sound of a purring cat.
What noise or sound do you hate?
The screeching of brakes that you hear in the city all the time.
All right. What is your favorite curse word? I encourage you to say something that rhymes with your favorite curse word, although I have no control. As inside the mediation room, I have.
My favorite curse word?
That's it. That's the question.
Shit.
There it is.
By the way, it should be known that when planes are crashing, when planes are going down and they listen to the flight recorders, the last words of most pilots are, "Oh shit."
Wow.
It should be, a pilot told me this, by the way. So.
If people learn nothing else today, at least they learn
Yeah.
that.
We learned something new. It goes with the theme. What profession other than your own, Ken, would you like to attempt?
What profession other than my own? You know, there is none.
Oh, wow. That's a first. Thanks, Ken.
What profession would you not like to do?
Be a ditch digger. It came to mind.
And finally,
And Ken, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I've been waiting for you.
wow. Wow, wow, wow. Ken Neumann, we thank you, not just Karen and I, the field thanks you, the world thanks you. You are one of a kind. You're amazing. We love you, Ken. And we thank you for being on today's episode of Inside the Mediation Room
with Ken Neumann. Thank you, Ken. Thanks, everyone.
Speak soon.
Thank you so much.
and Newman.
Everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We love you, Ken.